All right, everyone. So often pieces of legislation are misrepresented. They're given a family-friendly name when they're not family-friendly, like the Patriot Act. Oh, well, it must be patriotic. It's to save our country. Well, no, it's really about wanting to spy on you and crack down on speech and expression and protest, but it was presented that way. It was a bunch of nonsense, essentially. So when Hawley comes forth, Josh Hawley, Republican congressman, he's come forth and put forth an anti-censorship bill. That's how it's being presented, to prevent, tech censorship at the political level, to try to prevent bias ostensibly against conservatives. Now, again, it's not just conservatives. People are getting beat up on just for being independent creators. This is not a left-right issue anymore. Maybe it started off kind of that way, but it's really more about the people who happen to be targeted happen to be more on the right because they had simply promulgated their platforms online more ably than their contemporaries on the left. The left was dominated by the Young Turks and Voxes and Salons and stuff. There was already a middleman media sort of there to capitalize on the web. For the right, there was very little. You've got Drudge, you've got Breitbart, which is, sort of halfway between the two. But as far as independent commentary, yes, it was more libertarian, by far. By the fact that it was informed by Ron Paul in the mid-2000s, tended to lean it to the right, I suppose, on fiscal issues. And then you have sort of the new right sort of thing, including the diaspora, the alt-right, and so forth. So it simply happened to be tilted towards that, and therefore if you randomly ban 10 people, more than 5 of them are probably going to be right-wing, so-called, especially by the standards employed by Democrats. But here's the thing. If you actually look at the bill that's being suggested by Hawley, it doesn't appear to actually seriously tackle the problem. What it does instead is give the FCC certification capabilities over websites that deal with human communication. Now, here's the problem. I don't trust the FCC to do it even-handedly, not under Trump or any other administration. Sorry, but I mean, no, I don't. We've seen the problems of the FCC's crackdowns before in radio, especially. So I don't trust them. Number two, let's say that you did trust, let's say you think Trump is God Emperor or something, like, oh, Trump's FCC is going to save us from liberal Silicon Valley. Okay, but maybe so. What about the next president? Maybe it's a total left-wing Democrat. What happens if they weaponize the FCC and start denying licenses to people on the right for political bias and don't apply it the same to the left? Can you say Lois Lerner's IRS on steroids? Only this time it'll be with human communication. Yeah, I don't think that that's a good idea. Yes, there's a liberal bias in Silicon Valley, but more what we're seeing is Hawley and all these others are misconstruing it as though it was some left-right paradigm issue. It's not. It's about independent content creation on the internet has supplanted standard communication. It has supplanted standard Hollywood material. DC's political establishment is endangered by the uprising of offshoot political movements that are more tech literate. Publishers, like the big publishing blocks, they're potentially damaged by self-publishing and by all of the independent people who use Amazon and similar services. And so the legacy media definitely has begun to die because of the internet. And so they've been leaning heavily on Silicon Valley to clean up their platforms and make them family-friendly, which is to say they want to algorithmically manipulate things and demote those that they compete with. Hawley needs to understand this, but the people in Congress, by and large, don't get it. They don't get it because they're not being confronted enough by content creators. We need to speak directly to Congress, but every time Congress has an inquiry into the issue, they talk to Zuckerberg or Sundar Pichai or they call in Jack Dorsey, and then they'll have 1 or 2 content creators that will be browbeaten the entire time, and they don't even listen to them. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. We're the ones that are being censored. I am, for example, being algorithmically demoted on YouTube. I can show that. I can look at the analytics, and it doesn't take a genius to figure out what's happening. This is concurrent to a bunch of other people as well being demoted. If you look at the Data Society report, it should be fairly clear why. Now, that's, of course, an excuse. The excuse is that these people platform hate. No, they themselves aren't hateful, but they talk to hateful people, therefore they platform. It's some satanic panic witch hunt nonsense. But that's just an excuse. The real goal is to knock people out of the way and keep them down so that their lamestream networks can get more money. That's basically the only point. So Hawley's attempt would fail even if it's in good faith, and that's assuming that it is. It could be that Hawley knows full well that this particular bill is unnecessary in its current form and should be replaced. All we need to do is this. There are 2 really good ways to stop tech censorship the way it is. The first is through the application of existing law. You don't need a new one. Vertical monopolies are already illegal. It should already be construed as illegal for these tech firms to collude with one another to prevent someone from undergoing banking and e-commerce. That should already be illegal because technically it's a competitor of their business partners. So it's already a vertical monopoly. It's already an attempt to keep out other people by sort of stacking together and forming a trust. Trusts are already illegal in the United States. We've already got antitrust laws and legislation. So that's number one. Number two, Internet Bill of Rights. Extend the First and Fourth Amendments in their rudiments to all U.S. citizens and U.S. sites. Make them abide by those rules. You don't need the FCC involved. All you need to do is enable people to be able to take court cases, litigation forward if they feel abused. Use the normal, legal, judicial system. Subjugate this to the judiciary. Do not subjugate it to a bureau. You subjugate it to a bureau and you're looking towards mayhem in the future when some authoritarian administration starts misusing that power. This is an increase in government power where one does not reasonably need to exist. The government doesn't need to take over the censorship business. It just needs to get the internet to go back to the way it was prior to 2016. It was already working fine. It was already obviously highly lucrative for these big tech firms. They're already making money hand over fist. So why don't you just apply existing law and cause them to declare themselves once and for all a publisher or a platform? In most cases, they'd probably rather be a platform. The only one I think that has the capability with all of its AI systems to be able to weed through content automatically at a high enough rate to be efficient so they can avoid litigation or loss or criminal suits or something for political bias under that would be Google or maybe Amazon. But the thing is, like Amazon and Google under that auspice, why would they bother? They'd probably declare themselves a platform anyway. They'd make more money. What's the fucking point? They wouldn't even need the AI. By the way, I don't think that these sites are attempting to do some sort of world takeover thing with regards to propaganda and information control. It's all about the money. Google has been under huge pressure. They have hit pieces are written almost every day about Google and Twitter and all of these sites by the legacy media. The Silicon Valley sites should have circled the wagons, struck back, said this is propagandistic nonsense, shut the fuck up, and weaponized their own independent creators against these groups to fight back against, the witch hunt that's going on. The new ignorance of the burning times, which is what it is. That's what they should have done. Instead, they got afraid, which corporations tend to do. Oh my God, we're going to lose money. And so now they've set themselves up to lose more money. They should reverse course. If I could give them any advice, I would say, look, with all of your computer nerd skills, you're very good at developing a system, but then without the human skills, you're very bad at administering it. Get some anthropologists in there to try to explain this. Get a sociologist in there to give you a 1-hour lecture on why it's probably not a good idea to destroy all brand loyalty you have by beating up on your own vested audience, the people who made your site and actually do have loyalty to it and enjoy it. It's a good idea to side with them, especially when there are tens of millions of them active at any given time. It's probably a bad idea to side with ad agencies, but the ad-driven internet's on its way out anyway. We've seen, I told you, Adpocalypse 1.0 is really about YouTube throttling the number served because there weren't enough ads to serve. They decided to prioritize people who were priority creators at that time because there weren't enough ads to go around. What, you think that it's out of thin air, like there's infinite ads that they can serve and Google gets to choose how much money it absorbs from an ad agency? That's not how it works. There's a finite amount of resources to spread over all of the different content creators. That's really what it's about. That's about all. Peace out.